Hey everybody, this is Kirsten here. Welcome back to the Balanced Vibes podcast. Thank you so much for being here today. Today we're going to talk about the scale and how to stop being so afraid of getting on the scale. This is a really big thing for so many women. Many women get really worried about the number on the scale, even letting their entire mood depend on that number that they see on the scale. And definitely not judging here. I was that person once also, was really obsessed with it. And then over time got to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm not going to weigh myself anymore because I cannot look at the number. And I'm going to share with you this story a little bit more in detail in a second, but I'm doing this not to talk about myself, but to kind of show you how this kind of relationship uh, develops and why this happens. And you may recognize yourself in this similar relationship with the scale. And then later on, we're going to talk about when weighing yourself actually can be helpful and then when it is not helpful. And finally, how we can get over that fear of just a simple number on the scale. How do we get over that? All right. So years ago, like I said, I was really body obsessed. I was really scale obsessed. And I really thought that it sort of it's the most important thing about me pretty much. And I had this idea in my mind that I have to weigh the same that I weighed in high school or even a little bit less. And after a pretty significant weight loss, I got there and I got even less than that. So I weighed back then about, for a moment, even 59 kilograms, which is right now, I'm thinking, absolutely ridiculous for me. It's just so skinny, really, really small. But I did everything that I could to keep my weight under 62 kilograms, which is about 163, 135 pounds. And this was just way too low for me. And I didn't know it back then. I was really obsessed with the scale. I was like, no matter what, I'm going to keep myself there. What started happening then was that I started binge eating because the way I lost that weight was really restrictive. As many of you know, I was in Weight Watchers for many months and lost a lot of weight there. And this weight loss was really done with very restrictive ways. So I would definitely eat way under my needs. So I lost a lot of weight pretty quickly, and I just wasn't able to sustain that because my body asked for more. And this is how I started binging. And I have done a binge eating episode also previously. You can look that up as well. So I started binging, and every time I had binged, I was like, I'm not going to get on the scale, even though otherwise every morning I got on the scale to make sure that everything is in check, using air quotes here. But then after my binges, I was like, you know what, I don't want to get on a scale because I'm sure that it has gone up. So I just avoided it. And now, the longer this binging happened, the longer I kept myself in a continuous calorie deficit. I was just so hungry. The binges got more frequent. And as a result, also me getting on the scale started just happening less often because I didn't want to get on the scale. And eventually I started realizing that, you know what, I'm maybe starting to get on, put on some weight right now because the binges were like really frequent. And I decided that fuck this, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm just going to not get on the scale. And it was good. So this is basically how I broke up with it. It was fine. And after that, many years I did not get on the scale at all. I don't even know how many years, but it was a relief. And it was definitely a good decision for me back then because I got off the scale and I got off that mindset that I should be like a certain number, only then I'm good, or whatever I was thinking back then. I don't even know if this is how I worded it for myself, but definitely felt like there's a certain number, I have to be there. If not, then something is wrong. And so I also got to the point where I was like, I'm not going to get on a scale anymore. So I had gone from one end of the spectrum, being really obsessed with the scale, to now being in the opposite end of the spectrum, which is like, not like absolutely no way I'm going to get on the scale anymore. And now I can be totally objective about the number on the scale. It doesn't bother me anymore. I don't have to weigh myself every single day. I don't even have to weigh myself like every month if I don't want to. I just don't have this obsessive relationship with the scale. But if I need to weigh myself, if I want to know where I'm at, I can just get on a scale and be okay with it. And this is where I would eventually like everybody to get to, so that you're not afraid of it. Because when you think about it, it's one number. And by the way, I'm not saying that nobody should ever worry about their weight, or there's no reason to anybody ever to be concerned about their weight. I think they definitely do. I don't prescribe to that way of thinking that, oh, weight loss is always bad. No, I don't do that. But I want you to be able to look at your body weight objectively and then understand, okay, this is where I am. I want to make some changes, cool. But I don't want you to be afraid of the scale either. That's not good. So you want to have like a normal, healthy relationship with the scale, just like you should have with your food. So let me give you an example. If you say that I'm never gonna get on a scale, it's bad for me, it's terrible, I can't look at the number, oh my God, I just don't do this. The deep belief that you have there is like, there's something wrong with me if I'm past a certain number. And it's kind of similar to saying absolute 100% hard no to some kind of food. Let's say ice cream. I'm never going to have this anymore. Never, ever, period. Right? Okay, you can do this, but what if one day you're going to be surrounded with people who everybody gets ice cream and you're going to be the only one who's not going to get it? Cool. If you absolutely don't want it, fine. But there's a chance that you're going to want some ice cream too. And then you have that, and then you're going to be so obsessed, you're going to beat yourself up, you're going to feel absolutely terrible about it. So it's kind of like a similar thing. Let's say you never weigh yourself because you think it's so bad for you, and then you have to weigh yourself for some reason, maybe it's a doctor's checkup or whatever, and then you start obsessing about it, it's like the worst thing in the world, and so on and so on. So what I'm trying to get here is that I want you to get to the point where you can be just objective about the number on the scale, understand that maybe there are some things that you want to work on, but also understand that this is not the most important thing for you in the world. And how can you then have a healthy relationship with that number on the scale? So let's next talk about some cases where weighing yourself can be actually helpful. So one of the things is that it actually teaches you something about your body. So if you let it, like if you let it to be a tool that you use to understand your body a little bit better, if you're not freaking out and running away. So for example, sometimes I get people who tell me, oh my goodness, my weight went up and this was terrible. Like, I don't know what to do. I didn't do anything wrong. What's going on? So there are some things that can increase your body weight and does not have to mean that it's fat gain automatically. For example, did you know that every time when you are eating more carbohydrates, you're also gaining more water weight? This is just how it is. So let's say that you had a little bit more carbs yesterday. This is not a bad thing. You did not gain fat because of it, but you did gain a little bit of water weight. And that's why you are heavier on the scale the next day. So this is like a learning moment. Oh, I learned something about my body. I learned something about carbohydrates. Now I know what it was, and we're not going to freak out, okay? The other reason why your weight might go up is that maybe you're getting really close to your period, or you are on day one of your period, or sometimes I see that women who are getting close to their ovulation, their body weight tends to go up a little bit. Again, this is a learning moment. Oh, this is what my body does when I'm approaching my period. Interesting. And this is how I want you to be able to look at it objectively. Oh, interesting. That's what my body does. Okay. Some other reasons why your weight might be up and what you can learn from it is maybe you had a later dinner, or maybe you had a dinner that had more salt in it. Or surprisingly, and this is what a lot of people don't know, is that when they do a really heavy workout, they really push the weight hard, then their scale number might go up because they have increased levels of inflammation in the body. Again, this is not a fat gain. And if you're able to look at it objectively, this is what my body does. Isn't that interesting? Then it's going to be fine, because it's, like I said, it's not fat gain. It's nothing to be worried about. But if you don't know that, and if you don't get that data, and if you don't see those fluctuations that are absolutely normal, you are going to freak out about every single weight fluctuation that you ever see. And interestingly, by the way, also being dehydrated can increase your body weight a little bit. So this is one way how actually, getting on a scale and just getting objective data is helpful. It teaches you something about the body. It teaches you something about the food. It teaches something about your cycle, maybe. It's all normal and it's all good. Now, speaking from a coach's perspective, why is it good for your coach, whether it's me or somebody else, if you have a fat loss goal, weight loss goal, or if you want to put on lean body mass muscle? Why is it good for me to know your body weight? It's good for me to know your body weight because then I can do my best estimation. what kind of calories you need, what kind of macros do you need, because your deficit is for your deficit, it is helpful to know your body weight, because your deficit is going to be a percentage, or the same weight increase. Some women, believe it or not, want to bulk, and I'm here and happy for them because I think it's great. And also for them, they need to know how much they weigh to get a good percentage. Now, that being said, it's not mandatory. I'm not making anybody get on the scale if they don't want to. We can also use measurements, and we can also use photos to estimate the body fat percentage, and kind of get an idea of where their metabolism might be. So it's not that it's absolutely necessary, but it does make a coach's job a little bit easier. And also the adjustments that follow then are going to be easier to make. By the way, why I'm talking about adjustments, because when you are getting a macronutrient plan, then it's never going to be the same. So please don't think that you bought one-time macro calculation from somebody, that this is going to be forever and ever macros for you. No, macros have to be adjusted if you have a specific goal, unless you are eating at maintenance. But most people start working with macros because they either want to lose body fat or they want to gain muscle. So from the coach's perspective, one more time, it is a little bit easier if you know your weight and tell me your weight, because then I can estimate better what kind of calories and macros you need. Okay, so like I said, it's not always mandatory. So I don't make anybody who doesn't want to get on a scale, who is maybe working through this phase of like, yeah, I really can't get on a scale. It messes with my head too much. So I'm not making them do that. So how do we then measure progress? There are so many other tools also. There's photos, there's measurements, there is strength, which I absolutely love to use as a tool. Are we getting stronger? Because this is always a great thing. And of course, there's biofeedback. So how are you feeling? How are you sleeping? How are your cravings? How is your hunger and all that? And I ask these questions every single week from my clients, and they have to put this information in the check-in sheet. So those who do take their weight, they also put their weight in there. And those who don't take their weight, they just don't put their weight there. And that's all right as well. So we can go both ways. Like I just said, it's a little bit easier for the coach to do the accurate calculations for you. Now, let's talk about the opposite side of it. When is weighing not helpful? And I'm going to come back to the point that I just mentioned last. There are so many other ways to measure your success too. And weighing yourself is not helpful if you are really getting too much into your head about it. If you start telling yourself the stories that it has something to do with your worth, or that you should now never eat a certain thing anymore, or that you should be getting on a diet, or you should start cutting calories drastically because the weight is what you see maybe too high, then let's not weigh you. And sometimes I have told people that if you can't do this, then we just have to put your scale away or lock it up or ask a family member to take it away from you and put it away somewhere. Because if the mental cost is too high, then we're just not going to do it. And also, I'm going to say that to me, like the scale is the least important. Like I mentioned before, there's photos, there's measurements, there's biofeedback, there's strength. There's so much data that we can use to see if you are doing better. And the scale, honestly, for me, is not in the top three. It really isn't. So it's in the end of that list, really. So it's not as important as the other ones, in my opinion. It's helpful, but it's not the most important one. And also, when is weighing not super helpful is that when you are not able to see the progress that you're making. So you're getting so much into your head about the scale that you are literally missing out on the fact that you are doing so much better. For example, some people are so much leaner because they have put on good amount of muscle mass, and then they have lost some body fat, but their scale is about the same, or maybe sometimes even goes up, and they just don't see it. They're literally like blind to the fact that, like, look at yourself in the mirror, see how much better you look, and they're like, okay, cool, yeah, amazing. Then they get on the scale, they're like, oh, what? This is what I've been doing. Like, this is why I've been putting all this work in, and they just don't see the progress. And also sometimes the health benefits may totally go like unnoticed. Oh, you may even tell me that I'm sleeping better, my energy's better, I don't get like terrible afternoon crash, I don't get terrible cravings, everything's going great, good. And then you get on a scale and it's still the same, or maybe it's like a half a pound up. and you're losing your mind, right? So in these situations, let's not then weigh until you have developed a better relationship with the scale. But like I said, eventually I would like everybody to be able to be neutral about their weight and be like, okay, this is what it is right now. And this is a data point. All right. So, what can we then do about the fear, this massive fear that we have around getting on the scale? And like I said, that was me too in the past, where I just didn't want to get on the scale because I was binging all the time. I was like, oh my God, where is the weight now? And I don't want to see. So much fear around it. Now, my first tip for you, if you are somebody who's so scared of the number, is literally don't believe everything you think. And I really like this quote. I think it's pretty popular. A lot of people use it, and I've seen it. I personally first got it from, I saw a therapist years ago, probably around 10 years ago at this point. I was dealing with some depression, and he gave me a bumper sticker. And I didn't have a car back then, but I still put the bumper sticker on the wall, and it said, "Don't believe everything that you think." And how do you use this in this context that we're talking about today, your scale? So your belief is probably that something's wrong with me, right? Because the scale said something, right? And usually the problem, the thing that people are worried about is not so much about the physical health. Sometimes it is, yes, sometimes it is. And it's a good data point. Like I said, okay, we should pay attention to it. Like, okay, the weight is really getting really high and this is becoming unhealthy. But a lot of the times it's like it comes down to like self-worth and these all these old beliefs, and also this belief that the scale number is the most important thing about you and your health. And it's absolutely not. So we have led to believe that this is the thing. Even when you look at the magazines, I mean, I don't read magazines anymore, but the other day I was at a checkout line and I just saw these like headlines on, I think this was Women's Health or whatever the magazine was. It said, lose, I don't know, it was like 4 pounds a day or 20 pounds in 3 weeks or something like that. It's all focused around the number on the scale, right? How many pounds can I lose? So the belief is that the scale number is the most important thing, and we can forget about everything else, right? We don't even have to think about the fat percentage. Is that going down or not? Who cares? We don't have to think about how our health is. Is that getting better? Okay, let's not even pay attention to it. The only thing we have to worry about is the scale number. And this is a belief, and this is absolutely wrong belief, and you have to let go of that. And one of my coaches, James Wedmore, he likes to say that belief, there's a word lie in it already, right? Lie, belief, lie. So a lot of the beliefs that we have are just lies. And the other thing, I think that was him who said it, or maybe it was somebody else said that. Okay, so how do we then let go of those limiting beliefs that are just leading us in the wrong direction, not useful and helpful for us? So he said, okay, like when you were little, you believed that Santa Claus actually existed, and now you don't. I hope there's no kids with you right now in the car or at home where you're listening to it. So if you were able to let go of that belief, why can't you let go of other beliefs that are clearly not true and are clearly not serving you? So think about it. This is just a limiting belief, and don't believe everything you think about the scale weight. The second tip, how to get over the fear, is that put your focus elsewhere and focus on how you look and feel, and really look at your gains, like see your gains, count your what are known as non-scale victories. Sometimes I have to ask people those things. Do you have any non-scale victories, especially when they're like, oh, the scale didn't go down this week? Then they're like, okay, yeah, actually there are. I think I'm sleeping better and I'm eating breakfast now. I'm actually waking up and I have hunger for breakfast, which by the way is a great thing. Being not having hunger in the morning is not a healthy thing. So they are getting stronger. They're telling me, yeah, my upper body leaned out. It's funny. Just the other day, one lady told me, yeah, like my upper body is leaning out. I can see the muscle, but I'm weighing more than I've weighed before. So to me, it's like, did you even hear your first half of the sentence? You're telling me that your upper body is leaning out. You're looking more jacked. And then you still say that, but the scale is the same, or is the scale is even up at 1 pound? What does that matter that your scale is up than 1 pound if you're looking better? So at the end of the day, isn't that your bigger goal? Like nobody can see what the number in the scale is, but everybody can see how you fit in your clothes, right? So that's, of course, yeah, other people. And then we can talk about the other things. How's your health? How are you feeling? Right. And then you're feeling maybe absolutely amazing, but the scale went up 1 pound. Like, does it really matter? So put your focus elsewhere. Put the focus on how you look and feel, and count your non-scale victories. I'm sure that you have them if you have made some changes to your diet and exercise. The other day I was talking to another client, and before we started working together about 3 weeks ago, she lived a very sedentary lifestyle. She had in the past, years ago, worked out a lot, but now she was not working out at all. And now, 3 weeks ago, we started working out and she started going on walks. And I'm like, this is a lot more activity than you did before. And she's like, but the scale went up. Okay, so we're clearly getting healthier. We're clearly doing the healthy things. And now we're so worried about the scale going up a little bit. So we have to really put our focus somewhere else if the scale gets just too much attention. Then the next thing, consider how ridiculous it actually is to think that the scale number determines something about your self-worth, right? So this is what so many people are dealing with. And can we just really take a step back and see ourselves from really high above, and look at our actions and what we do, and we can see ourselves getting on the scale. Let's just literally imagine this right now. And you look down and you see, okay, she got on the scale. She was in a good mood before. Everything was fine. Now she got on a scale and it's like, fuck, my day is ruined. Is this normal? Is this actually normal? I don't think it is. So think about it this way. Think about a little bit bigger picture. See if it's really true. Is it really true that you are somehow worthy, less worthy or worse person just because you have a certain number on the scale? And like I said earlier too, I'm not saying that nobody should ever lose weight. In fact, this is what I help women do. So many women, I help them to do that. But I also think it's possible to have that goal and then at the same time have respect to yourself and understand that what I'm doing is should be healthy. And I want to keep also my mind and my body and everything healthy while I'm going through this process, because it is not helpful for me to beat myself up. Now, think about your health too. For example, the question is why are we getting so obsessed about the scale and not, for example, about blood pressure? Let's say that you take your blood pressure one day and what is a normal reading? Let's say it's 115/75, right? And then the next day you take your blood pressure and it's now 116/76. Do you freak out and lose your mind over that? It's 1 unit difference. No, we don't do that. But with the scale, we see half a pound up. We just give it all of our attention and we get obsessed and we get angry and we're swearing, to get on a diet and whatever. So we don't do that with blood pressure. Right. Of course, unless it's a significant increase, let's say you got your checkup and now the numbers are totally out of range, something really bad happened to you over the past 6 months and your blood pressure went up. But of course, then we're worried. And the same thing with the scale too. If you suddenly put on a lot of weight, yes, there is a reason to worry, but we don't worry about 1 pound of we shouldn't be worrying about 1 pound of weight gain, just like we don't worry about if our blood pressure went up a little bit. It's a tiny bit higher today than it was yesterday. And the last thing, and I know this is going to feel like a total stretch, you must be out of your mind, but I just want you to consider that there are people who actually want to gain weight because they want to gain more muscle mass. And it's so interesting, there's so many guys, for example, out there who have this what's known as the hard gainer body type. They can work out hard and they really want to put on muscle and they eat a lot and they just want to get heavier, but they just can't. The muscle doesn't come on. The food just feels like waste because nothing seems to stick. And I think this is every woman's dream, basically. Right? I want to be that person. Not everybody is that person. So, but can we just consider that this could be a thing for women too? What if I actually want to put on some weight on the scale? Again, I'm not talking to about a person who is already very overweight and is struggling, having health issues, or even just who has, some little bit extra that she wants to get rid of. But can we just consider that this could be an option? That what if I change my mindset, get freaking crazy rebellious and decide that I'm going to put on some mass now? How about that? So this is really cool. I don't see it super often, but I do see it sometimes with my clients. They do have the goal of, I want to get jacked, and I don't care if that's going to mean that I'm going to put on some weight on the scale. So weight gain isn't always a bad thing either. It's just we're so conditioned to think that this is a bad thing, and especially women should never desire that. And this is not true. Sometimes it's actually a really great thing, and your physique may look better with a little bit more weight than it did before. Again, I'm not saying that this is everybody, but this is an option, and this is a possibility. All right. So I hope that this episode was helpful for you. Like I said, the end goal with the body weight is always to get you to the point where you can get on the scale and look at the data and be like, okay, this is where I am right now. It is what it is. And you can decide if you want to do something about it. If you don't want to do anything about it, cool. It's just like you did it, but you don't want to be at a point where you are either one end of the spectrum where your entire life depends on that number. So you can't have a day when you don't get on the scale. And you also don't want to be the other end of the spectrum where you absolutely are so terrified of the scale that you just can't get on it. And if you get on it and you didn't like the number, now you lose your sleep and everything suddenly is just like a nightmare. So we try to end up in this middle place, in this sweet spot. This is always true with everything, I feel like. Even though it's boring, nobody wants to be in the sweet spot or like gray area. Everybody wants all or nothing. But these things usually don't work, and the gray area tends to work the best. Objectivity tends to work the best. So that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please make sure to grab some of my downloads too. They're totally free. You can get your protein guide, which is called Fit Physique Formula, to understand how much protein you should be eating for your goals if you want to get strong and lean and fit. And you can also get my Lean Ladies Calorie Protein and Workout Blueprint that helps you to figure out how many calories and macros do you need to eat and what kind of workouts to do if you have the same goal. You want to get fit, lean, and really healthy. All right. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.